name is Terrie, and I'm a founding member of the Alliance of Nuclear Worker Advocacy Groups and co-petitioner for the Rocky Flats SEC petition. Thank you for this time. About 3 months ago, the United Steelworkers Local 8031 generously donated hard copy documents, including safety concerns from the Rocky Flats site to AMI. I realize that NIOSH and SDNA reviewed some of the concerns, or at least the database back in 2007, but this donation is the first time the petitioner Charles Saunders and I, along with other site experts, had the chance to review these records. Of the almost 5,000 safety concerns in DOE's possession, NIOSH and SDNA determined that only about 40 or so could possibly affect NIOSH's ability to reconstruct those first Rocky Flats. This limited amount of safety concerns may have studied the complete review of the safety concerns. According to NIOSH, or according to SDNA's main report in 2007, and I quote, a number of safety concerns relate to a lack of quality control in the internal and external monitoring program. These concerns collectively reinforce issues raised in the petition regarding data quality, end quote. Our review found a lot more. The site-specific concerns, the specific safety concern numbers and their related issues can be found in the attached spreadsheet, and a copy of it is available online, and it's a pretty long address, and I'll give it to the transcriber if that's okay, but it's http rockyflatsambushrandjury.com, Barrie, E-R-R-I-E, Barrie, AdWAN presents Rocky Flats safety concerns, and I'll give this to the transcriber. We reviewed safety concerns which were not included in the NIOSH SDNA list. Briefly, we identified falsification of plutonium waste on the run sheet, falsification of medical records, and falsification of refit inspections. We identified multiple problems with the health and safety lab from 1985 to 1999, including this comment, quote, the HS&E laboratory has a major problem with contamination, and efforts are underway to correct this situation, end quote. There was a possible criticality in building 774 in 1986. It was serious enough to have Rocky Flats, quote, obtain a nuclear criticality specialist from Albuquerque, end quote. I cross-checked this incident with the Department of Energy Rocky Flats Assessment of Criticality Safety Report, and that is not listed in that report. We also identified a strong indication that radioactivity materials and contaminated equipment were present in Building 460 at least through 1996. The vast majority of these workers were not monitored for radiation since Building 460 was considered a cold building. Numerous concerns were filed for faulty alarms, lack of qualified RCT coverage, or even no coverage at all, and instruments being incorrectly calibrated. There were so many of these types of safety concerns that I stopped reporting them on a spreadsheet. But these concerns are directly related to NIOSH's ability to reconstruct those. If an alarm doesn't alarm, then the worker or the RCT will not know if there was a release. If the area doesn't have an RCT, the worker won't know if he was been exposed. If the RCT's instrument is not calibrated correctly, then it is unlikely that an accurate assessment of contamination will be recorded. In any of these situations, it is quite possible that the contaminated worker would not be decontaminated or given the opportunity to provide samples to see if there was an internal or external deposition. These are issues that affect NIOSH's ability to reconstruct this. As I mentioned, NIOSH and SDNA did identify a limited number of safety concerns. Some were resolved in 2007. However, the SDNA report states, quote, NIOSH continues its investigation of 2 safety concerns involving lost or invalid bioassay results, number 90-169, and the inadequacy of the internal and external dosimetry program, number 92-048. I have not been able to find this investigation into these two safety concerns is completed. If they have not been resolved, NIOSH needs to complete this investigation and include the additional safety concerns the petitioners have now identified. I would like to remind the board of two outstanding issues. Metal trit ties. This issue was raised during the Rocky Flats March 17, 2015 work group meeting. NIOSH promised that they would look into it again, but I have not seen where that has been completed either. I found safety concern number 94158, which alludes to the presence of trit ties. Earlier this year, I also supplied NIOSH with a couple of documents which I feel supports the possibility that trit ties was present in Rocky Flats. I would like to remind the board too that you approved SEC status for General Atomics in 2014, in part because NIOSH determined that, quote, metal trit ties were present during the operational period with no indication of any analysis performed to determine the type of trit ties. And that without that knowledge, NIOSH admitted that they cannot reconstruct those with sufficient accuracy. The other instance where consistent decisions on SEC petition affects Rocky Flats involves those reconstruction for neptunium exposure. One final SEC petition was approved because the petitioner provided a document which states that plutonium bioassay cannot be used to reconstruct those for neptunium exposure. Yet that is exactly what NIOSH is doing for Rocky Flats workers after 1983. How can this methodology be okay for Rocky Flats, but not for Lionel? Lastly, I'm concerned about the legacy of the weapons production being ignored. The workers employed from 1990 through the date of the closure must not be forgotten. Many of the safety concerns we reviewed occurred during this time period, well after the 1989 raid by the FBI. The SEC should be extended to 2005, and I believe we have provided ample evidence that supports this position. Thank you for allowing me to present these comments. I would also like to express my appreciation to the United Steelworkers, and especially Doug Fennell of Local 8031, for donating these documents and to Cold War Patriots, who generously provided the funds for this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Terrie. John Lipsky.
Greetings to the Honorable Dr. Melius and members of the Advisory Board. Hello, my name is John Lipsky. I was the lead FBI agent of the criminal investigation at Rocky Flats in June. In fact, I actually started in 1987. The raid was in June of 1989, and Rockwell pled guilty to felonies and misdemeanors in 1992. I was also a subject matter expert witness in the Maryland Cook versus Dow Chemical, Rockwell, and Boeing civil trial regarding the adjacent property in 2005. That verdict ended up going through the court system, but last May there was a settlement of $375 million for the plaintiffs who I testified for. I'm legally constrained from disclosing protected government information, and as a result of my previous employment, in support of those protections, I make the following comments regarding publicly available information. In March 1988, the U.S. Department of Energy, Environmental Safety and Health reported its technical safety appraisal for buildings 776 and 777, what's called the 1988 TSA. And there's a contract number of DE 88016374 and its findings. The 1988 TSA was conducted as an appraisal, some of us government employees call it an audit, by outside experts who reported similar concerns by Rocky Flats nuclear workers. The 1988 TSA documented 4 major problem areas, 85 specific findings, 9 of which had to be promptly within 2 weeks remedied. It is not surprising that a good share of the deficiencies of assessing the safety of activities was a result of management breakdown. The pervasive inadequacies in radiological protection at Rocky Flats, fire protection and maintenance are indicative of management inattention. This is further evidenced by the appraisal teams categorizing the 41 concerns as involving failure to comply with some aspect of DOE mandatory requirements. In regards to Ms. Terrie Barrie's public statement that you just heard, list of Rocky Flats safety concerns, and the interest of extending Rocky Flats SEC petition, please consider the following safety concerns. 1986-013 regarding receiving dosimeters twice, 1986-115 molten salt crew high gamma radiation, 1988-121 barrels filled with hot materials next to work area, 1992-345 treating detection alarm failure contact in building 707, 1996-161 no requirement to submit nasal mouth smears contaminated step-off pad, and 2000-025 management interfering with medical decision, in addition to the 1988 TSA. Radiation protection of all nuclear workers should be paramount at DOE facilities. The 1988 TSA was also concerned with a lack of a central coordinated information system of radiation records. Rocky Flats safety concern 94-064 and 94-065 dealing with cross-contamination of airhead filters in the analytical health physics laboratory, also known as Building 123, among other radiological issues, range from 1985 to 1996, and they still didn't fix it. These safety concerns also refers to, inside the file itself, it refers to other safety concerns, 1985-064, 90-051, and 90-212. It is not claimed favorable to ignore documented 1988 TSA, previous TSAs with unresolved findings, and the safety concerns that were contemporaneously documented issues regarding radiological protection for Rocky Flats nuclear workers. And I thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you. Next person I have on the list is Donna.
Thank you very much for your time and listening. The board members have a yellow packet that's there in front of them. At first, I'd like to bring into procedure number OCUS VR 004, pages 17 and 18, the timing policy, and that if the director of OCUS may, to discretionary, determine that the records or information requested is not provided in a timely manner, it shall be going ahead and issue a SEC. Also, at the bottom of that, it says that if the petition raised issues that have not been fully addressed, then the comprehensive assignment is important, and they are to address those issues, even if they said they could easily do the dose reconstruction and do not delay the SEC petition waiting on the documents. In the packet on the left-hand side, you have what they call occupational radiation exposure. Whenever the 2010 petition was appealed and asked for an administrative review, Laura Hughes says, what is RIMS? Because I asked to review the DOE RIMS on my Dallas plant. Well, the RIMS is a radiation exposure monitoring system that DOE has. And in 1992, they had a report on Pinellas Plan. Behind that, you will see emails going back and forth, stating that the Tiger Team report does satisfy the evidence for one of the criteria. Later on, LeVon Rutherford also says in the email, we have accepted SCNA issues to be an AHP report to go ahead and be qualified. Then you also have the professional judgment report showing that Donald Stanfield said we qualified, but yet we did not qualify. You had a new SEC petition recently also denied based on there's no new evidence. According to the regulations of the preamble, new evidence is only required if it's been put in the Federal Registry. Our act has never been put in the Federal Registry because we don't require it. You don't qualify. Then you had in that SEC petition information that was given to the March Board at Tampa that also qualified that SEC petition before they finally decided, and they never used any information that was also given to the board. Then you also have a new information report that was put into a journal regarding the flaking and gassing of the metal tritides and how they couldn't actually do a dose reconstruction for that. That's new evidence, but yet that was ignored. You have metal tritides, or the neutron tube and neutron generators, that for over 20 years was done there at the Pinellas plant. It was sent to Sandia, and then it was sent to Los Alamos for tube and generator. They have that SEC for the neutron generator workers after 1995. After 1990. So if one of the workers that worked at Pinellas plant now goes to Sandia, and they work there still on the neutron generators, same thing they worked at Pinellas plant, they get an SEC cancer, they qualify. But all those years at Pinellas, they do not. So why couldn't you use the surrogate data from Pinellas plant for the neutron generators at Sandia? Sandia, Livermore in California also had neutron generators, metal tritides. You can't do their dose either. Recently, a study came out in 2008 by Sandia saying that you can't use resuspensions on metal tritides. So all that you do not have the data. Also, there was recently a new report about the bioassays in metal tritides. You can't use tritium bioassay to determine the bioassay of a metal tritide because they're insoluble and soluble, and they're mixed with other things. So your bioassays cannot be used. So these are some of the issues. Finally, on the other side, you have documentation of what I'm saying. In my first petition for SEC, they said, well, you have a hazard substance list. That hazard substance list listed 28 radionuclides that have never been addressed. The technical basis document listed several radio-generating devices, never been addressed. And on and on and on. Also, it said the peer review, that the site exposure, the site expert in their peer review, well, it's not supposed to have any task with it. Well, their site expert is the person that does the dose reconstruction. They did the template, and it's not even an HP. And then all the dose reconstructions that have been being done now are not even reviewed by HPs. So we're having a big issue with this. The board was tasked with a certain responsibility. And in Perez versus Morgan Bankers Association, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled policy and procedures and legislative rules do not have the weight of law, the force of law, or the effect of law. So that statute and that regulation is what is effective, is what you is mandatory. And whenever in a qualification stage, they use you must use a report, you must do this. Good guidance and the Information Quality Act, they cannot use that. You cannot mandate. Only the law can mandate. Also, under the Information Quality Act, if a professional judgment is to be used, that must be backed by scientific and accepted community established acknowledgement information. So, Mrs. Lynn's statement, I think that August the 10th was your second day, also stated the job's duty of the board is to help diagnose, do the dose reconstruction for the people that is not with the SEC. And that is where you come up with a site profile or default values. Well, 10 CFR 835 has default values. Why can't we use those default values? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Incidents, and I'm just going to talk about a couple of them. First one I find is in 1984 in room 169, a vial cabinet. A vial cabinet contained vials holding PU of about 20 grams. I think it's grams, 20 G. The vials were returned to the glove box in room 128. In room 149, line 42, valve failure on tank 470 caused a 4-foot area to be contaminated. Now, I don't know where the Neptunium line was, but if it had anything to do with 149, NIOSH has been saying that there were no incidents reported on the Neptunium line. So I would like people to go through these incidents to see if they are related to the Neptunium line in 771. And these are all incidents after the SEC. So I'm not going back. The incidents actually go back all the way to, I think, the 60s is when it started. So in 1985, a tank containing nitric acid overflowed. The operator left the room without turning off the transfer valve. Automatic shut-off valve failed also. In 85, tank overflowing on the floor while operator was out of the room. 85 again, liquid was transferred from a safe pencil tank to an unsafe annular tank. How long did that stay in that annular tank? I also found something really interesting because it has the date, the room that the incident happened in, and then a description. So 12/15/85, it's just blank what room this happened in or where this happened, but it says high urine sample sensitive report. So it looks like another one in 86, contaminated employee sensitive report. So it's something that they didn't want to talk about, and I'm very interested in, why did the operations manager, why was he unable to document this? And then the second attachment is interesting because it shows reagents and chemicals that were used in 771 that employees came into contact with. This is what his affidavit, his sworn affidavit reads. Production materials, americium oxide, americium nitrate, ammonium diuronate, and neptunium. Plutonium is mentioned, so I find that interesting in this appendix. Okay. So that's the affidavit by Jack Leeper. And I turned that in, and I'm hoping that it can be put on the site. Number 2, I also turned in a document. It's dated 6/2/97 from the USW. And it was titled Location Known Beryllium Areas Document. I have a question for NIOSH on this. Has inertial fusion building 881 been addressed by NIOSH? See the second page of the submitted page 7 document. Inertial fusion in rooms 143E, 143F, 199, and 283A. I want to know more about that. And during the telephone conference call with Bob Rothie, I was on the line and recorded his quotes. The critical mass lab white paper, unfortunately, isn't going to come out until next week, and it would have been great to have it out a week earlier and to be able to comment on it more thoroughly today. But Bob Rothie, who was the lead scientist from 1964 to 1993 in the critical mass lab, is my client. He's lived in the same house for 50 years. Nobody's ever interviewed him, questioned him, talked to him. He's been very easily accessible. But I got hold of him, which is great. And he loves to teach me things. So anyway, he had seen the first white paper and he found a lot of problems with it. And so I gave you, when you do get the white paper, you're going to have quotes from his telephone call on the issues that he was having with the first white paper. So I hope you keep that with you, so when you're reviewing it, you can kind of see what Dr. Rothroyd was thinking about this. He also wrote a book about the critical mass lab, which I have a copy of, and he detailed all the documents that he owned. He's very meticulous and a fantastic site expert. I wish he would have been used many years ago. Anyway, some of the things that he said. Any future white paper must acknowledge that the desired radiation dose for construction of Rocky Flats plant can never be known with any reasonable degree of accuracy. All assumed conditions are likely to have not been the case. No one can ever know that radiation levels of the critical mass lab. These are all quotes from him. Any attempt to define or bound experimental power levels, neutron fluxes, and Gamma exposures as from fission fragments or the unavoidable ingrowth of unknown amounts of neptunium-239 and plutonium-239 has no defensible grounds. He was arguing on the phone with them about the fact that he did not, there is no way that you can get a power reading from the experiments he was doing. And he said this over and over and over again. Body counts were never done at Rocky Flats, only lung counts that measure gamma emitting radionuclides absorbed in the lung. The white paper refers to body counts being done. They weren't done, it was lung counts. The CML used outside neutron sources of polonium, californium, and cobalt-60. This is a quote from him. That was a quote. Dr. Rowe does not know how they were disposed of. The sources were added and removed by increments until the neutrons began to grow exponentially above critical levels during his experiments. That's a quote from him. Flux rates were not important to the experiments. That was not what they were looking for. You cannot bound the neutron flux rate. We never knew the power level, never knew the number of neutrons that were produced. There is no estimate of total fissions during these experiments. Many incidents were happened in the lab, and there were no special bioassays done. So we had some bioassays, but never any special bioassays. We had plutonium solution gamma standards that were never documented anywhere. I always turned off the criticality alarms during testing the sources. The alarm sounds during a prompt criticality and is meant to evacuate the building, and because we were doing experiments that were meant to go critical, we had to turn off the alarms in the building. NIOSH cannot reconstruct radiation doses